Greetings, everybody, and welcome to Chilliteracy. Hello, how are we doing? Happy Wednesday. I am very tired today because I have been painting my brother's flat, which turns out was more wall space, more wall space, I'll try that one again, than anticipated. And I am short and my arms are tired. But I got to use a big roller, which is all very exciting. It's very satisfying using like a big paint roller because everything goes on. Walls start growing while you paint them, it is known. Yep, this is true. And the thing is as well, is like the whole cutting in thing. It's like actually making sure like all the outline and everything is nice and neat takes about as much time as everything else. So, yes. But yes, hello everybody, how are we doing? We've got everybody in today. Who we got? We got Sam, we got Arian, thank you very much for resubscribing, Arian. We've got Lady Mephistopheles, thank you very much for resubscribing to you too. 2 more months till you're officially a bookworm, hooray! Parola, hello. Andy Pants, oh, Andy is now a worm, yay! Worm time. Small Cog, welcome. Salad, hello. And Ray Tracer, welcome in. You like painting but mostly your own stuff so you can look at it. Yeah, so my brother decided, because basically he moved into a fairly new build, so everything was just white, and he was just like, well, I would like some colour on the walls. So my mum and I basically, well, we sort of volunteered, but he also was just like, can you come paint my flat, please? So yeah, so he wanted one sort of like yellowy orangey terracotta-y colour, which is a really nice colour, turns out. He wanted like one big wall done like that in his living room, and then his kitchen's like this kind of bluey green colour. I'm not even going to start this, because if Sam's in chat, he will start roasting me for apparently not knowing the difference between blue and green, even though he's wrong as well. You like the bookworms? Hooray! I'm glad. Yes, they are hopefully cute. Weren't you painting recently too? Yes, I've been this is the second day of painting my brother's flat. I am busy tomorrow, but I will be back on Friday, because there are three walls. I say 3 walls. There's the kitchen to finish. We've done the first coat of that. We probably need to do at least one more coat on that. And then there is a wall in his bedroom that is painted a completely different colour from, well, not a completely different colour, just a blue, but a different colour from the other 2. So we have 3 separate colours for 3 separate places in his flat, which is great. They're all excellent colours. He has chosen well, but it's just like the effort of washing brushes and rollers and his ceilings are quite high, so I have been up a ladder most of today. It's been very exciting, and turns out it's a pain in the whatsit when the ceilings are high and you have to paint above kitchen countertops. Do not recommend, not fun. But yes, it's much more exciting than white. It absolutely looks fantastic. It's actually, tell you what, the colour in his living room is similar, possibly a little bit brighter, but similar to the curtains on this, on the Chilliteracy screen, like the curtains that I've drawn. It's kind of that colour, which is nice. All the colour balls in your place will be blue. Nice. You've lived in your house 9 years and it's still landlord beige. Yeah. Well, that was the thing, is like he finally got a place of his own. He was like, right, let's actually make this feel like mine, rather than I can't paint anything because renting. So, yeah, you have blue, green, and very light purple. Nice. Yeah, the blue green is sounds, yeah, that's basically what my brother's got his kitchen now. But yeah, it looks good, and it's particularly nice paint, so it goes on really well. But my goodness me, it's so much effort. You have art and things up, but just never got around to painting. Yeah, painting's like one of those things that I feel like you have to start fairly soon after you move in, or else you're never going to do it. Hope there are no landlord specials in there. Oh boy, no. Hello, Angeline. Welcome in. Happy book day, indeed. Hope you are well. Thank you very much for your resubscription. Very welcome indeed. So that's what I've been doing all day. And it's been quite warm today as well. And his flat is, I want to say south facing. Maybe not. Maybe like east facing. But anyway, it was warm up there. Your house is one adventure after another in rectifying landlord specials. Oh joys. That's always fun. The painting over the light sockets. Not light sockets. Plug sockets. There we go. Or light switches or plug sockets. I think I was trying to do two things at once there. Yeah, that's always fun. Oh, I wish house decorating was like The Sims Ray Tracer. I wish. Yeah. I did actually, when he first moved into his flat, I did actually mock it up in The Sims to give him an idea of what should go where. And it was actually quite effective. You really need to redo the bathroom completely, but money? Yep. Bathrooms are expensive. Kitchens are more expensive, but bathrooms are expensive. Well, why? Carpet in the bathroom salad? Why? Why do landlords do these things? No. Excellent Sims usage. Thank you. Not about just the visceral reaction from everyone in chat. Just not bathroom carpet. Mood. I'm going to link... Oops, I'm going to punch the microphone first. I'm going to link the first... No, that's not copy, Lucy. That's Control Z, not Control C. Ha. I'm going to put this in chat and pin it. Otherwise I will forget. Pin. Boop. But yes. When you bought your townhouse, one of the first things you did was tear the carpet out of the bathroom. I don't understand why anybody puts carpet in a bathroom. Really don't understand that. You're trying to move out, but woof, apartment's expensive. Oh, salad, I know the feeling. Although, yeah, currently housing market in the UK is a mess. Well, I say currently, it's been a mess for ages. Landlady you lived with had carpet in the main bathroom and a disabled cat. Oh, I can imagine those two things went well together. Your in-laws did bathroom carpet on purpose in their otherwise beautiful and tasteful home. Why? But why? I don't understand. Yeah. I don't understand. Oh, excuse me. Bright orange shag carpet. Wow. Oh, Andy, when your bathroom had wall-to-wall, full plush 1970 shag carpet. Good lord. Yeah. Also, hi Queek, hope you are well. Apologies for coming into carpet chat. Or bathroom carpet chat. It's less cold, but that's the only reason you can think of, and it's not a good one. No. Very no. Yeah. I mean, to be fair, again, in my brother's flat, they've obviously just like put down the cheapest carpet they can. It's already starting to come up in the corners, but he doesn't. At some point, he wants to like redo the floor anyway. But it's like a pinky grey carpet. It's just a hideous colour. And it really doesn't work with the orangey yellow he's now put on the walls. We've put on the walls. So yeah, that's fun. But yes. Yes, wear slippers, exactly. Do not put carpet in the bathroom. No. The only acceptable carpet-like substance in the bathroom is a bath mat. Wear carpet on your feet instead. Yes. Ooh, there's hardwood under the carpets of the main floor of your house. Someday when you have money, that carpet is getting gone. Yeah. Ooh, actual, like, nice hardwood. If you, like, restore that, they'll be banging, as the youth say. But, yes. Tonight, I thought, for a change of pace, she says, ha 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 ha. Guess what we're going to read? We're going to read some more Katherine Mansfield, because I like Katherine Mansfield, and I have a lot of her stories, and they're great. And, yeah, she's wonderful. And everybody likes her. She is, as we have said, a bicon. Which every time I write it sounds, like I keep on reading it as Bitcoin. It's not. But your grandparents' whole house was bright orange shag, bathrooms included. My God, that is a decision. That is, yep, that is of its time. Yep. I bet that's coming right back round. I wouldn't be surprised, because, like, 70s stuff. I have a friend who's just bought a flat, and she is... Well, she hasn't got silly carpets or anything, but she is wanting, like, orange and like, pink and green and sort of... Lots of sort of very... Almost like pastel 70s, 80s kind of colours, and it's just like, okay, alright. Let's decide on 1 or 2 rather than 5 different colours. But yes, your parents' house was all burnt orange and avocado green carpets. Tasty, lovely, with green velour sofas. Delightful. Stream Elements, I am here. No, bad Stream Elements. I can actually delete that message. Can I delete that message? Oh, it doesn't let me. Damn. No. Sam, it's already done it. Right, well. On that note, shall we read some Katherine Mansfield? So, I have 3 stories for you tonight. We will see how my voice holds out, because I am very tired. And yeah, and my sinuses have been playing merry havoc with me lately, so yeah, hopefully I won't have a nosebleed. You think you got lucky growing up because despite being the... I read on this channel. Despite being built in the 60s and last updated in maybe the late 70s or early 80s, you had relatively tasteful light grey carpet. The linoleum in the kitchen was a different matter. Ah, yes. Linoleum. Linoleum. No. Yeah, I think... yeah, I think we had bad linoleum once when I was very, very young. Things like fake terracotta tiles or something. But as just a big sheet of linoleum. Wow, I cannot... No, I'm not going to try. Words are not working. Words are not wording. So... Kitchen carpet too! What is wrong with people? No! Bad! Yours was fake brick. Yeah, it seems to be a thing. Anyway. Chat has distracted me with interior decor chat this time. Not even cocktail chat. They were carpet mad. They were. Carpet horror stories. That's the one. You want to play The Sims again? Yeah. I go through... Oh god, I'm not going to stop talking. I go through stages of religiously playing The Sims and building lots of things. And then... not. Your cat is attacking your feet. Sherlock, stop attacking. But also, hello. You had... Yeah, everybody had kitchen carpets. Awful. Dreadful. No. Blech. Can't think of anything worse, apart from bathroom carpet. Right. If we are all sitting comfortably, then I will begin with the first story of tonight, which is Marriage a la Mode by Katherine Mansfield. On his way to the station, William remembered with a fresh pang of disappointment that he was taking nothing down to the kiddies. Poor little chaps. It was hard lines on them. Their first words always were, as they ran to greet him, "What have you got for me, Daddy?" And he had nothing. He would have to buy them some sweets at the station. But that was what he had done for the past 4 Saturdays. Their faces had fallen last time when they saw the same old boxes produced again. And Paddy had said, "I had red ribbing on mine before." And Johnny had said, "It's always pink on mine. I hate pink." But what was William to do? The affair wasn't so easily settled. In the old days, of course, he would have taken a taxi off to a decent toy shop and chosen them something in 5 minutes. But nowadays they had Russian toys, French toys, Serbian toys, toys from God knows where. It was over a year since Isabel had scrapped the old donkeys and engines and so on because they were so dreadfully sentimental and so appallingly bad for the baby's sense of form. It's so important, the new Isabel had explained, that they should like the right things from the very beginning. It saves so much time later on. Really, if the poor pets have to spend their infant years staring at these horrors, one can imagine them growing up and asking to be taken to the Royal Academy. And she spoke as though a visit to the Royal Academy was certain immediate death to anyone. "Well, I don't know," said William slowly. "When I was their age, I used to go to bed hugging an old towel with a knot in it." The new Isabel looked at him, her eyes narrowed, her lips apart. "Dear William, I'm sure you did." She laughed in the new way. Sweets it would have to be, however, thought William gloomily, fishing in his pocket for change for the taxi-man. And he saw the kiddies handing the boxes round. They were awfully generous little chaps, while Isabel's precious friends didn't hesitate to help themselves. What about fruit? William hovered before a stall just inside the station. What about a melon each? Would they have to share that too? Or a pineapple for Pad and a melon for Johnny? Isabel's friends could hardly go sneaking up to the nursery at the children's meal times. All the same, as he bought the melon, William had a horrible vision of one of Isabel's young poets lapping up a slice for some reason behind the nursery door. With his 2 very awkward parcels, he strode off to his train. The platform was crowded, the train was in. Doors banged open and shut. There came such a loud hissing from the engine that people looked dazed as they scurried to and fro. William made straight for a first-class smoker, stowed away his suitcase and parcels, and taking a huge wad of papers out of his inner pocket, he flung down in the corner and began to read. "Our client, moreover, is positive. We are inclined to reconsider in the event of—" that was better. William pressed back his flattened hair and stretched his legs across the carriage floor. The familiar dull gnawing in his breast quietened down. "With regard to our decision—" He took out a blue pencil and scored a paragraph slowly. 2 men came in, stepped across him, and made for the farther corner. A young fellow swung his golf clubs into the rack and sat down opposite. The train gave a gentle lurch. They were off. William glanced up and saw the hot, bright station slipping away. A red-faced girl raced along by the carriages. There was something strained and almost desperate in the way she waved and called. Hysterical, thought William dully. Then a greasy, black-faced workman at the end of the platform grinned at the passing train, and William thought, "A filthy life," and went back to his papers. When he looked up again, there were fields and beasts standing for shelter under the dark trees. A wide river, with naked children splashing in the shallows, glided into sight and was gone again. The sky shone pale, and one bird drifted high like a dark fleck in a jewel. "We have examined our client's correspondence files." The last sentence he had read echoed in his mind. "We have examined—" William hung on to that sentence, but it was no good. It snapped in the middle, and the fields, the sky, the sailing bird, the water, all said, "Isabel." The same thing happened every Saturday afternoon. When he was on his way to meet Isabel, there began those countless imaginary meetings. She was at the station, standing just a little apart from everybody else. She was sitting in the open taxi outside. She was at the garden gate, walking across the parched grass, at the door, or just inside the hall. And her clear, light voice said, "It's William!" or "Hello, William," or "So William has come." He touched her cool hand, her cool cheek. The exquisite freshness of Isabel. When he had been a little boy, it was his delight to run into the garden after a shower of rain and shake the rosebush over him. Isabel was that rosebush, petal soft, sparkling and cool. And he was still that little boy. But there was no running into the garden now, no laughing and shaking. The dull, persistent gnawing in his breast started again. He drew up his legs, tossed the papers aside, and shut his eyes. "What is it, Isabel? What is it?" he said tenderly. They were in their bedroom in the new house. Isabel sat on a painted stool before the dressing table that was strewn with the little black and green boxes. "What is what, William?" And she bent forward, and her fine light hair fell over her cheek. "Ah, you know." He stood in the middle of the strange room, and he felt a stranger. At that, Isabel wheeled round quickly and faced him. "Oh, William," she cried imploringly, and she held up the hairbrush. Please don't be so dreadfully stuffy and tragic. You're always saying or looking or hinting that I've changed. Just because I've got to know really congenial people and go about more and am frightfully keen on everything, you behave as though I'd—" Isabel tossed back her hair and laughed. "Killed our love or something. It's so awfully absurd." She bit her lip. "And it's so maddening, William. Even this new house and the servants you grudge me." "Isabel." Yes, it's true in a way," said Isabel quickly. "You think they are another bad sign. Oh, I know you do. I feel it," she said softly, "every time you come up the stairs. But we couldn't have gone living in that other poky little hole, William. Be practical at least. Why, there wasn't enough room for the babies even." No, it was true. Every morning when he came back from the chambers, it was to find the babies with Isabel in the back drawing-room. They were having rides on the leopard skin thrown over the sofa back, or they were playing shops with Isabel's desk for a counter, or Pad was sitting on the hearthrug, rowing away for dear life with a little brass fire shovel, while Johnny shot at pirates with the tongs. Every evening they each had a piggyback up the narrow stairs to their fat old nanny. Yes, he supposed it was a poky little house. A little white house with blue curtains and a window box of petunias. William met their friends at the door with a "Seen our petunias? Pretty terrific for London, don't you think?" But the imbecile thing, the absolutely extraordinary thing was that he hadn't the slightest idea that Isabel wasn't as happy as he. God, what blindness! He hadn't the remotest notion in those days that she really hated that inconvenient little house, that she thought the fat nanny was ruining the babies, that she was desperately lonely, pining for new people and new music and pictures and so on. If they hadn't gone to that studio party at Moira Morrison's, if Moira Morrison hadn't said as they were leaving, "I'm going to rescue your wife, selfish man. She's like an exquisite little Titania." If Isabel hadn't gone with Moira to Paris, if... The train stopped at another station. Bettingford. Good heavens, they'd be there in 10 minutes. William stuffed the papers back into his pockets. The young man opposite had long since disappeared. Now the other two got out. The late afternoon sun shone on women in cotton frocks and little sunburnt barefoot children. It blazed on a silky yellow flower with coarse leaves, which sprawled over a bank of rock. The air ruffling through the window smelled of the sea. Had Isabel the same crowd with her this weekend? Wondered William. And he remembered the holidays they used to have, the 4 of them, with a little farm girl, Rose, to look after the babies. Isabel wore a jersey and her hair in a plait. She looked about 14. Lord, how his nose used to peel! And the amount they ate, and the amount they slept in, that immense feather bed with their feet locked together. William couldn't help a grim smile as he thought of Isabel's horror if she knew the full extent of his sentimentality. "Hello, William!" She was at the station after all, standing just as he had imagined, apart from the others, and William's heart leapt. She was alone. "Hello, Isabel." William stared. He thought she looked so beautiful that he had to say something. "You look very cool." "Do I?" said Isabel. "I don't feel very cool. Come along, your horrid old train is late. The taxi's outside." She put her hand lightly on his arm as they passed the ticket collector. "We've all come to meet you," she said, "but we've left Bobby Kane at the sweet shop to be called for." "Oh," said William. It was all he could say for the moment. There in the glare waited the taxi, with Bill Hunt and Dennis Green sprawling on one side, their hats tilted over their faces, while on the other Moira Morrison, in a bonnet like a huge strawberry, jumped up and down. "No ice! No ice! No ice!" she shouted gaily. And Dennis chimed in from under his hat, "Only to be had from the fishmongers." And Bill Hunt, emerging, added, "With whole fish in it." "Oh, what a bore!" wailed Isabel, and she explained to William how they had been chasing round the town for ice while she waited for him. "Simply everything is running down the steep cliffs into the sea, beginning with the butter." "We shall have to anoint ourselves with the butter," said Dennis. "May thy head, William, lack not ointment." "Look here," said William. "How are we going to sit? I'd better get up by the driver." "No, Bobby Kane's by the driver," said Isabel. "You're to sit between Moira and me." The taxi started. "What have you got in those mysterious parcels?" "Decapitated heads," said Bill Hunt, shuddering beneath his hat. "Oh, fruit!" Isabel sounded very pleased. "Wise, William! A melon and a pineapple! How too nice!" "No, wait a bit," said William, smiling, but he really was anxious. "I brought them down for the kiddies." "Oh, my dear!" Isabel laughed and slipped her hand through his arm. "They'd be rolling in agonies if they were to eat them." "No," she patted his hand. "You must bring them something next time. I refuse to part with my pineapple." "Cruel Isabel, do let me smell it," said Moira. She flung her arms across William appealingly. "Oh!" The strawberry bonnet fell forward. She sounded quite faint. "A lady in love with a pineapple," said Dennis, as the taxi drew up before a little shop with a striped blind. Out came Bobby Kane, his arms full of little packets. "I do hope they'll be good. I've chosen them because of the colours. There are some round things which really look too divine. And just look at this nougat," he cried ecstatically. "Just look at it. It's a perfect little ballet." But at that moment the shopman appeared. "Oh, I forgot. They're none of them paid for," said Bobby, looking frightened. Isabel gave the shopman a note, and Bobby was radiant again. "Hello, William. I'm sitting by the driver." And bareheaded, all in white, with his sleeves rolled up to the shoulders, he leapt into his place. "Avanti!" he cried. After tea the others went off to bathe, while William stayed and made his peace with the kiddies. But Johnny and Paddy were asleep. The rose-red glow had paled. Bats were flying, and still the bathers had not returned. As William wandered downstairs, the maid crossed the hall carrying a lamp. He followed her into the sitting room. It was a long room, coloured yellow. On the wall opposite William, someone had painted a young man, over life-size, with very wobbly legs, offering a wide-eyed daisy to a young woman who had one very short arm and one very long, thin one. Over the chairs and sofa there hung strips of black material, covered with big splashes like broken eggs, and everywhere one looked there seemed to be an ashtray full of cigarette ends. William sat down in one of the chairs. Nowadays, when one felt with one hand down the sides, it wasn't to come upon a sheep with 3 legs, or a cow that had lost one horn, or a very fat dove out of the Noah's Ark. One fished up yet another little paper-covered book of smudged-looking poems. He thought of the wad of papers in his pocket, but he was too hungry and tired to read. The door was open. Sounds came from the kitchen. The servants were talking as if they were alone in the house. Suddenly there came a loud screech of laughter and an equally loud "Shh!" They had remembered him. William got up and went through the French windows into the garden, and as he stood there in the shadow he heard the bathers coming up the sandy road. Their voices rang through the quiet. "I think it's up to Moira to use her little arts and wiles." A tragic moan from Moira. "We ought to have a gramophone for the weekends that played The Maid of the Mountains." "Oh, no, oh, no," cried Isabel's voice. "That's not fair to William. Be nice to him, my children. He's only staying until tomorrow evening." "Leave him to me," cried Bobby Kane. "I'm awfully good at looking after people." The gate swung open and shut. William moved on the terrace. They had seen him. "Hello, William!" And Bobby Kane, flapping his towel, began to leap and pirouette on the parched lawn. "Pity you didn't come, William. The water was divine, and we all went to a little pub afterwards and had sloe gin." The others had reached the house. "I say, Isabel," called Bobby, "would you like me to wear my Dajinski dress tonight?" "No," said Isabel. "Nobody's going to dress. We're all starving. William's starving too. Come along, mes amis. Let's begin with sardines." "I found the sardines," said Moira, and she ran into the hall, holding a box high in the air. "A lady with a box of sardines," said Dennis gravely. "Well, William, and how's London?" asked Bill Hunt, drawing the cork out of a bottle of whisky. "No, London's not much changed," answered William. "Good old London," said Bobby, very hearty, spearing a sardine. But a moment later, William was forgotten. Moira Morrison began wondering what colour one's legs really were under water. "Mine are the palest mushroom colour." Bill and Dennis ate enormously, and Isabel filled glasses and changed plates and found matches, smiling blissfully. At one moment she said, "I do wish, Bill, you'd paint it." "Paint what?" said Bill loudly, stuffing his mouth with bread. "Us," said Isabel, "round the table. It would be so fascinating in 20 years' time." Bill screwed up his eyes and chewed. "Light's wrong," he said rudely. "Far too much yellow," and went on eating. And that seemed to charm Isabel too. But after supper they were all so tired they could do nothing but yawn until it was late enough to go to bed. It was not until William was waiting for his taxi the next afternoon that he found himself alone with Isabel. When he brought his suitcase down into the hall, Isabel left the others and went over to him. She stooped down and picked up the suitcase. "What a weight," she said, and she gave a little awkward laugh. "Let me carry it. To the gate." "No, why should you?" said William. "Of course not. Give it to me." "Oh, please do let me," said Isabel. I want to, really." They walked together silently. William felt there was nothing to say now. "There," said Isabel triumphantly, setting the suitcase down, and she looked anxiously along the sandy road. "I hardly seem to have seen you this time," she said breathlessly. "It's so short, isn't it? I feel you've only just come. Next time—" The taxi came into sight. "I hope they look after you properly in London. I'm so sorry the babies have been out all day, but Miss Neal arranged it. They'll hate missing you. Poor William, going back to London." The taxi turned. "Goodbye." She gave him a little hurried kiss. She was gone. Fields, trees, hedges streamed by. They shook through the empty, blind-looking little town, ground up the steep pull to the station. The train was in. William made straight for a first-class smoker, flung back into the corner, but this time he let the papers alone. He folded his arms against the dull, persistent gnawing, and began, in his mind, to write a letter to Isabel. The post was late as usual. They sat outside the house in long chairs under coloured parasols. Only Bobby Kane lay on the turf at Isabel's feet. It was dull, stifling. The day drooped like a flag. "Do you think there will be Mondays in heaven?" asked Bobby childishly. And Dennis murmured, "Heaven will be one long Monday." But Isabel couldn't help wondering what had happened to the salmon they had for supper last night. She had meant to have fish mayonnaise for lunch, and now... Moira was asleep. Sleeping was her latest discovery. "It's so wonderful. One simply shuts one's eyes, that's all. It's so delicious." When the old ruddy postman came beating along the sandy road on his tricycle, one felt the handlebars ought to have been oars. Bill Hunt put down his book. "Letters," he said complacently, and they all waited. But heartless postman, oh malignant world! There was only one, a fat one for Isabel, not even a paper. "And mine's only from William," said Isabel mournfully. "From William, already?" "He's sending you back your marriage lines as a gentle reminder." "Does everybody have marriage lines? I thought they were only for servants." "Pages and pages. Look at her, a lady reading a letter," said Dennis. My darling, precious Isabel. Pages and pages there were. As Isabel read on, her feeling of astonishment changed to a stifled feeling. What on earth had induced William? How extraordinary it was! What could have made him? She felt confused, more and more excited, even frightened. It was just like William. Was it? It was absurd, of course. It must be absurd. Ridiculous. Oh dear! What was she to do? Isabel flung back in her chair and laughed till she couldn't stop laughing. "Do tell us," said the others. "You must tell us." "I'm longing to," gurgled Isabel. She sat up, gathered the letter and waved it at them. "Gather round," she said. "Listen, it's too marvellous. A love letter." "A love letter? But how divine!" Darling, precious Isabel. But she had hardly begun before their laughter interrupted her. "Go on, Isabel, it's perfect. It's the most marvellous find. Oh, do go on, Isabel." "God forbid, my darling, that I should be a drag on your happiness." Oh! Shh, shh, shh. And Isabel went on. When she reached the end, they were hysterical. Bobby rolled on the turf and almost sobbed. "You must let me have it just as it is, entire, for my new book," said Dennis firmly. I shall give it a whole chapter. Oh, Isabel, moaned Moira, that wonderful bit about holding you in his arms. I always thought those letters in divorce cases were made up, but they pale before this. Let me hold it. Let me read it, mine own self, said Bobby Kane. But, to their surprise, Isabel crushed the letter in her hand. She was laughing no longer. She glanced quickly at them all. She looked exhausted. No, not just now. Not just now, she stammered. And before they could recover, she had run into the house, through the hall, up the stairs into her bedroom. Down she sat on the side of the bed. How vile, odious, abominable, vulgar, muttered Isabel. She pressed her eyes with her knuckles and rocked to and fro. And again she saw them, but not 4, more like 40, laughing, sneering, jeering, stretching out their hands while she read them William's letter. Oh, what a loathsome thing to have done! How could she have done it? God forbid, my darling, that I should be a drag on your happiness. William! Isabel pressed her face into the pillow, but she felt that even the grave bedroom knew her for what she was, shallow, tinkling, vain. Presently from the garden below there came voices. Isabel, we're all going for a bathe. Do come. Come, thou wife of William. Call her once before you go. Call once yet. Isabel sat up. Now was the moment. Now she must decide. Would she go with them, or stay here and write to William? Which should it be? I must make up my mind. Oh, but how could there be any question? Of course she would stay here and write. Titania, piped Moira. Isabel. No, it was too difficult. I'll go with them and write to William later. Some other time, later, not now. But I shall certainly write, thought Isabel hurriedly. And, laughing in the new way, she ran down the stairs. The end. I find that one really sad. It's really sad. It's just like, oh, this is just like a marriage that is just not doing so well because distance and not great friends. Kind of sad. Also, hi Diana! Thank you very much for resubscribing. Welcome in. Hope you're well. Miscommunication. Well, it's miscommunication, but it's also like, yeah, it's again, it's Mansfield doing the thing of, you know, this is a kind of relationship. This is a very real relationship, and what happens, like, she wasn't happy in the first place because, like, for example, the house was too small, it was cramped and stuff, but she saw more of her husband, like she saw him every evening. But then they moved to a bigger house, and so she was happier in the bigger house, and like found new friends which seemed to be going well, and he unfortunately is working all week and only sees her and their kids on the weekends, and like it's kind of, yeah, they've sort of fallen into this pattern of complacency, and it sounds like her friends are just kind of not necessarily great people and kind of make fun of, yeah, like the fact that they made fun of her husband writing her a love letter is just kind of shit. It's like, don't do that, maybe. But also she shouldn't have read it out to them, because she knew that they were going to do that, and she was kind of reading it out to them in a lol, isn't this funny way, and it's just kind of sad. And yeah, the kids never got their fruits or anything either. She needs better friends, she does, but like in general, like, they just need to talk. It's your classic, maybe communicate a bit better. But mundane tragedy, exactly. But yeah, like that's such a, I don't know, Mansfield again doing the thing of this reads way more modern than it was, even though I know it's not wildly old fashioned, but like she really, really gets people and relationships and how this all works, because like yeah, you see this kind of thing happening all the time in life. So yeah, and like William himself forgetting to get his kids anything. And part of that is because he thinks that Isabel will disapprove because she's changed, and it's just great. It's just really, it's not great, obviously it's bad, but like the actual story is fantastic. She's really good at writing these universal stories. Yeah, absolutely. Got to prioritize the relationship, exactly. And yeah, like just kind of sad that he comes down, he came down on a Saturday afternoon and then had to go back on a Sunday. Like, he's seeing her not even 2 full days a week. That's just kind of sad. And yeah, suddenly realizing that as someone in a long distance relationship is like, yes, but yeah, I feel like this particular thing is like, yeah, with kids as well, it's just kind of sad. But yes, maybe I might throw to a break early because I've got another couple of stories. I am also very warm because it's warm. You know the issue of not being able to see your significant other a whole lot either? Yep. Me too. And it sucks. Long distance relationships are not fun. Hi. Hi, significant other. But yes, I shall throw us to a break. Go do break related things. Go rehydrate, all of those things. They also didn't have the internet, this is true. Even more sad. They couldn't communicate all the time. But yeah, go do break related things. Have a nice break, and we will see you back in about 5 minutes. Bye for now. back. Welcome back, chat. I hope we are doing well. Hope we are not as warm as I am, because I am very warm, and I had to spend my break shooing various insects out of my room. We had 2 flies, a ladybird, for some reason, and a flying ant. Although yesterday I had 3 daddy long legs in here, so hopefully, fingers crossed, touch wood. That was my quota of daddy long legs for the week, because I don't care about daddy long legs, but they're flipping enormous and they just get in annoying places, and they just, you can never quite anticipate the way they're going to fly. They're a pain. But yes. You're very warm too? Oh, you puzzling? I hope the puzzle is going well. They are so noisy, I know. Yes, I hope the puzzle's going well. Elenia the Great, welcome in. Hello, hope you are well. And a partridge on a pear tree, Boodot, indeed. Oh yes, I forgot to say hi to Boodot. Hi Boodot, hope you're well. You're on the bus. Bus? Wow. That was me going bus and far at the same time. You're on the bus and you're far too warm. Yes. Our Danny Longlegs are the flying things. The spider. What was that? Oh, that was just something falling off my desk. Everything is fine. I don't have a ghost. They were the spider-like ones. No, the yeah, they are. They're like spiders. They've got long legs, but they've got long bodies. They're like massive, giant, like mosquito-type things, except they don't have any mouth parts. They're flipping useless. But they have wings. Thanks. That's all right, Boodot. No problem. Anytime. You are very welcome, of course. Spidery mosquitoes that aren't actually anything mosquito-y and just kind of rubbish. Bless them. There's a mosquito buzzing about your office currently. It landed on your nose earlier. Yeah, that's very rude of it. How dare. Yeah. No, the really annoying things are shield bugs or stink bugs or whatever you want to call them, because they just sort of flying in donk and then stink up the place. So, yeah. Daddy longlegs here, also known as cellar spiders. No wings, tiny bodies, huge long legs. Oh, see, that's not daddy longlegs is here. Daddy longlegs here are specifically the flying things. We call tiny bodies long legs. Like, if they're really, really skinny long legs, the spiders that have got, like, just round, little round bodies and really long, skinny, very, very thin legs, those are called harvesters. Harvestmen, I think. Well, that is a name for them. Hate stink bugs, especially when picking berries. Yep, not fun. Oh, a crane flies daddy long legs. Ah, that might be what it is, Lynn. Good call. Also, hello, welcome. Hope you are well. There's actual spiders and things that look like spiders but aren't, as far as you're aware, aren't. I think those are harvestmen. I think those are the things that look like spiders but they're not. I think. Oh no! Desk chair damaged. That's annoying. Oh well. Yeah, that is disappointing. That is annoying. Sam needs to get a new desk chair, actually. He's been looking at desk chairs because his is really falling apart. Call them hay wagons. That's fun. Well, I guess that's kind of similar if we call them harvestmen. Yeah. Flying ones here are crane flies. Yeah, so crane flies are daddy longlegses. You do, it's falling apart. Yeah, you do. Like, I can actually see the wood in it. And the wood is cracking. Mosquito hawks. Oh, that's fun. I like that. You like harvestmen? They look ridiculous. Yep. You're using a dining room chair as your desk chair because... Well, until, like, 2 years ago, I did that as well, Boodot, so... Oh, obviously, only the best people do that. Oh, the bottom mechanism was broken, so you just bought spare parts. Ah. Oh, fish flies. Fish flies? What are fish flies? Are fish flies like, oh god, what do you call them? Oh, my brain's gone. Mayflies. That sounds like mayflies. That, like, congregate around rivers and stuff. And they last like a day, and then they die. Your desk chair has a pillowcase over the bag because the fabric was falling apart. Methinks, Andy, you might need a new chair. That feels like Just yeah, last ditch DIY. It's like, it's not actually falling apart quite yet, so I'm gonna just see what happens if I just do this thing. Similar to mayflies. Nice. But just stinky mayflies. Sounds great. But yes. But yeah, I've got 2 more stories for you tonight. One of which is very short. The other is slightly less short, but still pretty short. So we'll probably finish early tonight, which frankly I need because I'm very tired. But yeah, you will be the link I've put up at the top of that I pinned at the top of chat. You'll annoyingly I can't like pin specific stories in that, but you should be able to scroll down to both the ones, the next 2 ones. So yeah. There also some unwearable underwear of the armrests because your cat kept gnawing at them. Oh dear. Literally smell like dead fish. That sounds great. The pillowcase solves the problem a lot better than you thought it would. The back was just fabric over a metal frame. Oh, fair enough. Okay. There's me thinking like all the stuffing is like falling out. But yeah, I mean, if the rest of it's still there and still working, why not? Excuse me for yawning. But yes, so the next story I'm going to read is, I'm going to say, if I can find the page, there we go. I'm going to say, I guess this is a slightly tame content warning, I guess, but I'm gonna say like content warning for like possible, like there's sort of an underlying atmosphere of like an abusive, an abusive dad, a possibly alcoholic abusive dad. So I guess content warning for that. It is very, very, like, nothing happens. It's quite, like, subtle, I guess. But, it's obvious that there is something like this happening. Like, there's underlying tension. Off page? What, as in, it is a hint off page. What? I'm confused. So yeah, for anyone who doesn't want to deal with that, feel free to. Oh, page with it. What, as in actual page number? I mean, there's literally just. Hang on. Where'd it go? It's literally just like. No page number that it happens off page. Oh, right, yeah. Yeah, there's no, like, there's just, like, there's, like, just a couple of mentions that, off screen. Okay, gotcha, sorry. As I say, I'm tired. Yeah, like, there's a couple of just mentions of, he's been drinking again, or like, that is it. There is no, like, there's nothing awful happening, there's nothing like that, but there is just a general underlying tension, and, like, you can tell something's not quite right. So, content warning for that. Anybody who doesn't want to deal with that, feel free to nope out. But it's not. Yeah, it's not. For example, it's not as bad as the whichever story it was that there was basically an assault. It's not as bad as that. So. It is again Mansfield sort of doing a thing of looking into another family dynamic and sort of just describing it, but not being kind of the little governess. Yeah, the implications exactly. And yeah, so. But yes, if we're all so this one is called New Dresses. I don't know if it's going to be linked immediately in the... I don't think I could link to the story in that link, so you might have to scroll down a little bit to it, but all the stories in that are fairly short, so you shouldn't have to scroll too far. But, yes, if we're also sitting comfortably, then I shall begin. New Dresses by Katherine Mansfield. Mrs. Carsfield and her mother sat at the dining room table putting the finishing touches to some green cashmere dresses. They were to be worn by the two Mrs. Carsfield at church on the following day, with apple green sashes and straw hats with ribbon tails. Mrs. Carsfield had set her heart on it, and this being a late night for Henry, who was attending a meeting of the Political League, she and her old mother had the dining room to themselves and could make a peaceful litter, as she expressed it. The red cloth was taken off the table, where stood the wedding present sewing machine, a brown work basket, the material, and some torn fashion journals. Mrs. Carsfield worked the machine slowly, for she feared the green thread would give out, and had a sort of tired hope that it might last longer if she was careful to use a little at a time. The old woman sat in a rocking chair, her skirt turned back, and her felt slippered feet on a hassock, tying the machine threads and stitching some narrow lace on the necks and cuffs. The gas jet flickered. Now and again the old woman glanced up at the jet and said, "There's water in the pipe, Anne, that's what's the matter," then was silent, to say again a moment later, "There must be water in that pipe, Anne," and again, with quite a burst of energy, "Now there is, I'm certain of it." Anne frowned at the sewing machine. "The way Mother harps on things gets frightfully on my nerves," she thought. And always when there's no earthly opportunity to better a thing. I suppose it's old age, but most aggravating. Aloud she said, "Mother, I'm having a really substantial hem in this dress of Rose's. The child has got so leggy lately. And don't put any lace on Helen's cuffs. It will make a distinction. And besides, she's so careless about rubbing her hands on anything grubby." "Oh, there's plenty," said the old woman. "I'll put it a little higher up." And she wondered why Anne had such a down on Helen. Henry was just the same. They seemed to want to hurt Helen's feelings. The distinction was merely an excuse. "Well," said Mrs. Carsfield, "you didn't see Helen's clothes when I took them off tonight. Black from head to foot after a week. And when I compared them before her eyes with Rose's, she merely shrugged, you know that habit she's got, and began stuttering. I really shall have to go see Dr. Malcolm about her stuttering, if only to give her a good fright. I believe it is merely an affectation she's picked up at school, that she can help it." "Anne, you know she's always stuttered. You did just the same when you were her age. She's highly strung." The old woman took off her spectacles, breathed on them, and rubbed them with a corner of her sewing apron. "Well, the last thing in the world to do her any good is to let her imagine that," answered Anne, shaking out one of the green frocks and pricking at the pleats with her needle. "She is treated exactly like Rose, and the boy hasn't a nerve. Did you see him when I put him on the rocking horse today for the first time? He simply gurgled with joy. He's more the image of his father every day." "Yes, he certainly is a thorough Carsfield," assented the old woman, nodding her head. "Now that's another thing about Helen," said Anne. "The peculiar way she treats Boy, staring at him and frightening him as she does. You remember when he was a baby how she used to take away his bottle and see what he would do? Rose is perfect with the child, but Helen—" The old woman put down her work on the table. A little silence fell, and through the silence the loud ticking of the dining-room clock. She wanted to speak her mind to Anne once and for all about the way she and Henry were treating Helen, ruining the child, but the ticking noise distracted her. She could not think of the words, and sat there stupidly, her brain going tick, tick to the dining-room clock. How loudly that clock ticks, was all she said. Oh, there's Mother, off the subject again, giving me no help or encouragement, thought Anne. She glanced at the clock. Mother, if you've finished that frock, would you go into the kitchen and heat up some coffee and perhaps cut a plate of ham? Henry will be in directly. I'm practically through with this second frock by myself. She held it up for inspection. Aren't they charming? They ought to last the children a good 2 years, and then I expect they'll do for school. Lengthened and perhaps dyed. I'm glad we decided on the more expensive material, said the old woman. Left alone in the dining room, Anne's frown deepened and her mouth drooped. A sharp line showed from nose to chin. She breathed deeply and pushed back her hair. There seemed to be no air in the room. She felt stuffed up, and it seemed so useless to be tiring herself out with fine sewing for Helen. One never got through with children and never had any gratitude from them, except Rose, who was exceptional. Another sign of old age in Mother was her absurd point of view about Helen and her touchiness on the subject. There was one thing, Mrs. Carsfield said to herself. She was determined to keep Helen apart from Boy. He had all his father's sensitiveness to unsympathetic influences. A blessing that the girls were at school all day. At last the dresses were finished and folded over the back of the chair. She carried the sewing machine over to the bookshelves, spread the tablecloth, and went over to the window. The blind was up. She could see the garden quite plainly. There must be a moon about. And then she caught sight of something shining on the garden seat. A book. Yes, it must be a book, left there to get soaked through by the dew. She went out into the hall, put on her goloshes, gathered up her skirt, and ran into the garden. Yes, it was a book. She picked it up carefully. Damp already, and the cover bulging. She shrugged her shoulders in the way that her little daughter had caught from her. In the shadowy garden that smelled of grass and rose leaves, Anne's heart hardened. Then the gate clicked, and she saw Henry striding up the front path. "Henry!" she called. "Hello!" he cried. "What on earth are you doing down there? Moon-gazing, Anne?" She ran forward and kissed him. "Oh, look at this book," she said. "Helen's been leaving it about again. My dear, how you smell of cigars." Said Henry, "You've got to smoke a decent cigar when you're with these other chaps. Looks so bad if you don't. But come inside, Anne, you haven't got anything on. Let the book go hang. You're cold, my dear, you're shivering." He put his arm round her shoulder. "See the moon over there by the chimney? Fine night. By Jove, I had the fellows roaring tonight. I made a colossal joke. One of them said, 'Life is a game of cards,' and I, without thinking, just straight out—" Henry paused by the door and held up a finger. "I said, well, I've forgotten the exact words, but they shouted, my dear, simply shouted. No, I'll remember what I said in bed tonight. You know I always do." "I'll take this book into the kitchen to dry on the stove rack," said Anne, and she thought as she banged the pages, "Henry has been drinking beer again. That means indigestion tomorrow. No use mentioning Helen tonight." When Henry had finished the supper, he lay back in the chair, picking his teeth, and patted his knee for Anne to come and sit there. "Hello," he said, jumping her up and down. "What's the green fandangles on the chair back? What have you and Mother been up to, eh?" Said Anne airily, casting a most careless glance at the green dresses. "Only some frocks for the children. Remnants for Sunday." The old woman put the plate and cup and saucer together, then lighted a candle. "I think I'll go to bed," she said cheerfully. "Oh, dear me, how unwise of Mother," thought Anne. "She makes Henry suspect by going away like that, as she always does if there's any unpleasantness brewing." "No, don't go to bed yet, Mother," cried Henry jovially. "Let's have a look at the things." She passed him over the dresses, faintly smiling. Henry rubbed them through his fingers. "So these are the remnants, are they, Anne? Don't feel much like the Sunday trousers my mother used to make me out of an ironing blanket. How much did you pay for this a yard, Anne?" Anne took the dresses from him and played with a button on his waistcoat. "Forget the exact price, darling. Mother and I rather skimped them, even though they were so cheap. What can great big men bother about clothes? Was Lumley there tonight?" "Yes, he says their kid was a bit bandy-legged at just the same age as Boy. He told me of a new kind of chair for children that the draper has just got in. Makes them sit with their legs straight. By the way, have you got this month's draper's bill?" She had been waiting for that, had known it was coming. She slipped off his knee and yawned. "Oh, dear me," she said. "I think I'll follow Mother. Bed's the place for me." She stared at Henry vacantly. "Bill? Bill, did you say, dear? Oh, I'll look it out in the morning." "No, Anne, hold on." Henry got up and went over to the cupboard where the bill file was kept. "Tomorrow's no good because it's Sunday. I want to get that account off my chest before I turn in. Sit down there in the rocking chair. You needn't stand." She dropped into the chair and began humming, all the while her thoughts coldly busy and her eyes fixed on her husband's broad back as he bent over the cupboard door. He dawdled over finding the file. "He's keeping me in suspense on purpose," she thought. "We can afford it. Otherwise, why should I do it? I know our income and our expenditure. I'm not a fool. They're a hell upon earth every month, these bills." And she thought of her bed upstairs, yearned for it, imagining she had never felt so tired in her life. "Here we are," said Henry. He slammed the file onto the table. "Draw up your chair. Clayton, 7 yards green cashmere at 5 shillings a yard, 35 shillings. He read the item twice, then folded the sheet over and bent towards Anne. He was flushed and his breath smelt of beer. She knew exactly how he took things in that mood, and she raised her eyebrows and nodded. "Do you mean to tell me," stormed Henry, "that lot over there cost 35 shillings? That stuff you've been mucking up for the children? Good God! Anybody would think you married a millionaire. You could buy your mother a trousseau with that money. You're making yourself a laughingstock for the whole town. How do you think I can buy Boy a chair or anything else if you chuck away my earnings like that? Time and again you impress upon me the impossibility of keeping Helen decent, and then you go decking her out the next moment in 35 shillings worth of green cashmere." On and on stormed the voice. "He'll have calmed down in the morning when the beer's worked off," thought Anne, and later, as she toiled up to bed, when he sees how they'll last, he'll understand. A brilliant Sunday morning. Henry and Anne, quite reconciled, sitting in the dining room waiting for church time to the tune of Carsfield Junior, who steadily thumped the shelf of his high chair with a gravy spoon given him from the breakfast table by his father. "That beggar's got muscle," said Henry proudly. "I've timed him by my watch. He's kept that up for 5 minutes without stopping." "Extraordinary," said Anne, buttoning her gloves. "I think he's had that spoon almost long enough now, dear, don't you? I'm so afraid of him putting it into his mouth." "Oh, I've got an eye on him." Henry stood over his small son. "Go it, old man. Tell Mother boys like to kick up a row." Anne kept silence. At any rate, it would keep his eye off the children when they came down in those cashmeres. She was still wondering if she had drummed into their minds often enough the supreme importance of being careful and of taking them off immediately after church before dinner, and why Helen was fidgety when she was pulled about at all, when the door opened and the old woman ushered them in, complete to the straw hats with ribbon tails. She could not help thrilling. They looked so very superior, Rose carrying her prayer book in a white case embroidered with a pink woolen cross. But she feigned indifference immediately, and the lateness of the hour. Not a word more on the subject from Henry, even with the 35 shillings worth walking hand in hand before him all the way to church. Anne decided that was really generous and noble of him. She looked up at him, walking with the shoulders thrown back. How fine he looked in that long black coat with the white silk tie just showing, and the children looked worthy of him. She squeezed his hand in church, conveying by that silent pressure, "It was for your sake I made the dresses. Of course, you can't understand that, but really, Henry." And she fully believed it. On their way home, the Carsfield family met Dr. Malcolm out walking with a black dog carrying his stick in its mouth. Dr. Malcolm stopped and asked after Boy so intelligently that Henry invited him to dinner. Come and pick a bone with us and see Boy for yourself," he said, and Dr. Malcolm accepted. He walked beside Henry and shouted over his shoulder, "Helen, keep an eye on my boy baby, will you, and see he doesn't swallow that walking stick, because if he does, a tree will grow right out of his mouth, or it will go to his tail and make it so stiff that a wag will knock you into Kingdom Come." "Oh, Dr. Malcolm," laughed Helen, stooping over the dog. "Come along, doggy, give it up, there's a good boy." "Helen, your dress," warned Anne. "Yes, indeed," said Dr. Malcolm. "They are looking top-notchers today, the two young ladies." "Well, it really is Rose's colour," said Anne. "Her complexion is so much more vivid than Helen's." Rose blushed. Dr. Malcolm's eyes twinkled, and he kept a tight rein on himself from saying she looked like a tomato in a lettuce salad. "That child wants taken down a peg," he decided. "Give me Helen every time. She'll come to her own yet and lead them just the dance they need." Boy was having his midday sleep when they arrived home, and Dr. Malcolm begged that Helen might show him round the garden. Henry, repenting already of his generosity, gladly assented, and Anne went into the kitchen to interview the servant girl. "Mumma, let me come too and taste the gravy," begged Rose. "Tuh," muttered Dr. Malcolm. "Good riddance." He established himself on the garden bench, put up his feet and took off his hat to give the sun a chance of growing a second crop, he told Helen. She asked soberly, "Dr. Malcolm, do you really like my dress?" "Of course I do, my lady. Don't you?" "Oh, yes, I'd like to be born and die in it. But it was such a fuss. Tryings on, you know, and pullings and don'ts. I believe Mother would kill me if it got hurt. I even knelt on my petticoat all through church because of dust on the hassock." "Bad as that?" asked Dr. Malcolm, rolling his eyes at Helen. "Oh, far worse," said the child, then burst into laughter and shouted, "Hellish!" dancing over the lawn. "Take care, they'll hear you, Helen." "Oh, boo! It's just dirty old cashmere. Serve them right. They can't see me if they're not here to see, and so it doesn't matter. It's only with them I feel funny." "Haven't you got to remove your finery before dinner?" "No, because you're here." "Oh, my prophetic soul," groaned Dr. Malcolm. Coffee was served in the garden. The servant girl brought out some cane chairs and a rug for Boy. The children were told to go away and play. "Leave off worrying Dr. Malcolm, Helen," said Henry. "You mustn't be a plague to people who are not members of your own family." Helen pouted and dragged over to the swing for comfort. She swung high and thought Dr. Malcolm was a most beautiful man, and wondered if his dog had finished the plate of bones in the backyard. Decided to go and see. Slower she swung, then took a flying leap. Her tight skirt caught on a nail. There was a sharp tearing sound. Quickly she glanced at the others. They had not noticed. And then at the frock. At a hole big enough to stick her hand through. She felt neither frightened nor sorry. "I'll go and change it," she thought. "Helen, where are you going to?" called Anne. "Into the house for a book." The old woman noticed that the child held her skirt in a peculiar way. Her petticoat string must have come untied. but she made no remark. Once in the bedroom, Helen unbuttoned the frock, slipped out of it, and wondered what to do next. Hide it somewhere. She glanced all round the room. There was nowhere safe from them, except the top of the cupboard. But even standing on a chair, she could not throw so high. It fell back on top of her every time. The horrid, hateful thing. Then her eyes lighted on her school satchel hanging on the end of the bedpost. Wrap it in her school pinafore. Put it in the bottom of the bag with the pencil case on top. They'd never look there. She returned to the garden in the everyday dress, but forgot about the book. "Ah," said Anne, smiling ironically. "What a new leaf for Dr. Malcolm's benefit. Look, Mother, Helen has changed without being told to." "Come here and be done up properly," she whispered to Helen. "Where did you leave your dress?" "Left it on the side of the bed, where I took it off," sang Helen. Dr. Malcolm was talking to Henry of the advantages derived from public school education for the sons of commercial men, but he had his eye on the scene, and, watching Helen, he smelt a rat, smelt a Hamlin tribe of them. Confusion and consternation reigned. One of the green cashmeres had disappeared, spirited off the face of the earth, during the time that Helen took it off and the children's tea. "Show me the exact spot," scolded Mrs. Carsfield for the 20th time. "Helen, tell the truth." "Mama, I swear I left it on the floor." "Well, it's no good swearing if it's not there. It can't have been stolen." "I did see a very funny-looking man in a white cap walking up and down the road and staring in the windows as I came up to change." Sharply, Anne eyed her daughter. "Now," she said, "I know you are telling lies." She turned to the old woman, in her voice something of pride and joyous satisfaction. "You hear, Mother, this cock-and-bull story?" When they were near the end of the bed, Helen blushed and turned away from them, and now and again she wanted to shout, "I tore it! I tore it!" And she fancied she had said it and seen their faces, just as sometimes in bed she dreamed she had got up and dressed. But as the evening wore on, she grew quite careless, glad of only one thing: people had to go to sleep at night. Viciously she stared at the sun shining through the window space and making a pattern of the curtain on the bare nursery floor. And then she looked at Rose, painting a text at the nursery table with a whole egg cup full of water to herself. Henry visited their bedroom the last thing. She heard him come creaking into their room and hid under the bedclothes. But Rose betrayed her. "Helen's not asleep," piped Rose. Henry sat by the bedside pulling his moustache. "If it were not Sunday, Helen, I would whip you. As it is, and I must be at the office early tomorrow, I shall give you a sound smacking after tea in the evening. Do you hear me?" She grunted. You love father and mother, you love your father and mother, don't you?" No answer. Rose gave Helen a dig with her foot. "Well," said Henry, sighing deeply, "I suppose you love Jesus?" "Rose has scratched my leg with her toenail," answered Helen. Henry strode out of the room and flung himself onto his own bed with his outdoor boots on the starched bolster, Anne noticed, but he was too overcome for her to venture a protest. The old woman was in the bedroom too, idly combing the hairs from Anne's brush. Henry told them the story, and was gratified to observe Anne's tears. "It is Rose's turn for her toenails after the bath next Saturday," commented the old woman. In the middle of the night, Henry dug his elbow into Mrs. Carsfield. "I've got an idea," he said. "Malcolm's at the bottom of this." No, how, why, where, bottom of what?" "Those damned green dresses." "Wouldn't be surprised," she managed to articulate, thinking, imagine his rage if I woke him up to tell him an idiotic thing like that. "Is Mrs. Carsfield at home?" asked Dr. Malcolm. No, sir, she's out visiting, answered the servant girl. Is Mr. Carsfield anywhere about? Oh, no, sir, he's never home midday. Show me into the drawing room. The servant girl opened the drawing room door, cocked her eye at the doctor's bag. She wished he would leave it in the hall, even if she could only feel the outside without opening it, but the doctor kept it in his hand. The old woman sat in the drawing room, a roll of knitting on her lap. Her head had fallen back, her mouth was open. She was asleep and quietly snoring. She started up at the sound of the doctor's footsteps and straightened her cap. "Oh, Doctor, you did take me by surprise. I was dreaming that Henry had bought Anne 5 little canaries. Please sit down." "No, thanks. I just popped in on the chance of catching you alone. You see this bag?" The old woman nodded. "Now, are you any good at opening bags?" "Well, my husband was a great traveller, and once I spent a whole night in a railway train." "Well, have a go at opening this one." The old woman knelt on the floor. Her fingers trembled. "There's nothing startling inside?" she asked. "Well, it won't bite exactly," said Dr. Malcolm. The catch sprang open. The bag yawned like a toothless mouth, and she saw, folded in its depths, green cashmere, with narrow lace on the neck and sleeves. "Fancy that?" said the old woman mildly. "May I take it out, Doctor?" She professed neither astonishment nor pleasure, and Malcolm felt disappointed. "Helen's dress," he said, and bending towards her, raised his voice. "That young Spark's Sunday rig-out." "I'm not deaf, Doctor," answered the old woman. "Yes, I thought it looked like it. I told Anne only this morning it was bound to turn up somewhere." She shook the crumpled frock and looked it over. "Things always do if you give them time. I've noticed that so often. It's such a blessing." "You know Lindsay, the postman? Gastric ulcers. Called there this morning. Saw this brought in by Lena, who'd got it from Helen on her way to school. Said the kid fished it out of her satchel rolled in a pinafore, and said her mother had told her to give it away because it did not fit her. When I saw the tear, I understood yesterday's new leaf, as Mrs. Carsfield put it. Was up to the dodge in a jiffy. Got the dress, bought some stuff at Clayton's, and made my sister Bertha sew it while I had dinner. I knew what would be happening this end of the line, and I knew you'd see Helen through for the sake of getting one in at Henry." "How thoughtful of you, Doctor," said the old woman. "I'll tell Anne I found it under my dolman." "Yes, that's your ticket," said Dr. Malcolm. "But of course Helen would have forgotten the whipping by tomorrow morning, and I'd promised her a new doll." The old woman spoke regretfully. Dr. Malcolm snapped his bag together. "It's no good talking to the old bird," he thought. "She doesn't take in half I say. Don't seem to have got any forwarder than doing Helen out of a doll." The end. So yeah, not a great set of parents there, but the grandmother's all right, and Dr. Malcolm doing a solid for little Helen. Yeah, that's got all the hallmarks of a very happy, healthy family, hasn't it? Definitely not favouritism going on there. You like that the other grown-ups are conspiring to help Helen. Yeah, I really liked that. It's just like, yeah, it's just like basically like, oh, we see the favouritism going on here. You know what? We like the one who's being discriminated against. We're going to try and, stick in her corner. So, yeah. And Rose is, your classic spoilt kid. Both parents have some problems. They do, yeah. I hope she disappears the minute she turns 18 and they never see her again. Yeah, it feels like that. Now, you see, I wonder, and I don't know if you guys thought so as well, but I got a bit of maybe an autobiographical feeling with that. Just because, I don't know, it feels like, it just felt like Mansfield might be a Helen. I just got that kind of vibe. Weird side note, but you're noticing an attitude about children in these stories that they are blank slates to be moulded, not people in their own right. This is the thing. I wonder, Angeline, because like Mansfield, I feel really understands like relationships, dynamics of just like she gets things, and I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of that is because she has either seen it or she was one of those children who she felt like people were putting their own sort of... people were trying to make her a certain way. Certainly if... That ladybird's back, you idiot. Yeah, certainly if she was... Well, I mean, she was by, like, obviously would have had society and parents and everything trying to basically make her like the same as them, make her as straight as possible kind of thing. So feels like familiar subject matter. Yeah, so I like it. This does feel very much like it's coming from something she knows and understands, of like, oh, people are trying to make me a certain way that I don't fit in. And yeah, so yeah, I do wonder if there's some of that. But yeah, she feels like a Helen in that story. But yes, one more story, and then we shall finish up for tonight. This is a very short one. Reminds you a bit of Gentleman Jack and Anne Lister. Yeah, it does a bit, doesn't it? But yes, this isn't really a story. This is just kind of vibes. This one's called Spring Pictures. For anybody who's reading along, you should be able to scroll down a little bit more on that link that I've pinned. But this is Mansfield doing what she does and just like writing some vibes occasionally. So I hope you enjoy. Spring Pictures by Katherine Mansfield. It is raining. Big soft drops splash on the people's hands and cheeks. Immense warm drops like melted stars. Here are roses, here are lilies, here are violets, caws the old hag in the gutter. But the lilies, bunched together in a frill of green, look more like faded cauliflowers. Up and down she drags the creaking barrow. A bad, sickly smell comes from it. Nobody wants to buy. You must walk in the middle of the road, for there is no room on the pavement. Every single shop brims over. Every shop shows a tattered frill of soiled lace and dirty ribbon to charm and entice you. There are tables set out with toy cannons and soldiers and zeppelins and photograph frames complete with ogling beauties. There are immense baskets of yellow straw hats piled up like pyramids of pastry, and strings of coloured boots and shoes so small that nobody could wear them. One shop is full of little squares of mackintosh, blue ones for girls and pink ones for boys, with bebe printed in the middle of each. Here are lilies, here are roses, here are pretty violets, warbles the old hag, bumping into another barrow. But this barrow is still. It is heaped with lettuces. Its owner, a fat old woman, sprawls across, fast asleep, her nose in the lettuce roots. Who is ever going to buy anything here? The sellers are women. They sit on little canvas stools, dreamy and vacant-looking. Now and again one of them gets up and takes a feather duster like a smoky torch and flicks it over a thing or two and then sits down again. Even the old man in tangerine spectacles with a balloon of a belly, who turns the revolving stand of comic postcards round and round, cannot decide. Suddenly, from the empty shop at the corner, a piano strikes up, and a violin and flute join in. The windows of the shop are scrawled over, "New songs, first floor, entrance free." But the windows of the first floor being open, nobody bothers to go up. They hang about grinning as the harsh voices float out into the warm, rainy air. At the doorway there stands a lean man in a pair of burst carpet slippers. He has stuck a feather through the broken rim of his hat. With what an air he wears it! The feather is magnificent. It is gold epaulets, frogged coat, white kid gloves, gilded cane. He swaggers under it, and the voice rolls off his chest, rich and ample. "Come up, come up! Here are the new songs. Each singer is an artiste of European reputation. The orchestra is famous and second to none. You can stay as long as you like. It is the chance of a lifetime, and once missed, never to return." But nobody moves. Why should they? They know all about those girls, those famous artistes. One is dressed in cream cashmere and one in blue. Both have dark, crimped hair and a pink rose pinned over the ear. They know all about the pianist's button boots, the left foot, the pedal foot, burst over the bunion on his big toe, the violinist's bitten nails, the long, far too long cuffs of the flute player. All these things are as old as the new songs. For a long time the music goes on, and the proud voice thunders. Then somebody calls down the stairs, and the showman, still with his grand air, disappears. The voices cease. The piano, the violin, and the flute dribble into quiet. Only the lace curtain gives a wavy sign of life from the first floor. It is raining still. It is getting dusky. Here are roses, here are lilies. Who will buy my violets? 2. Hope! You misery, you sentimental, faded female. Break your last string and have done with it. I shall go mad with your endless thrumming. My heart throbs to it, and every little pulse beats in time. It is morning. I lie in the empty bed. The huge bed, big as a field and as cold and unsheltered. Through the shutters, the sunlight comes up from the river and flows over the ceiling in trembling waves. I hear from outside a hammer tapping, and far below in the house a door swings open and shuts. Is this my room? Are those my clothes folded over an armchair? Under the pillow, sign and symbol of a lonely woman, ticks my watch. The bell jangles. Ah, at last! I leap out of bed and run to the door. Play, faster, faster, hope. "Your milk, mademoiselle," says the concierge, gazing at me severely. "Ah, thank you," I cry, gaily swinging the milk bottle. "No letters for me?" "Nothing, mademoiselle." "But the postman, he has called already?" "A long half an hour ago, mademoiselle." Shut the door. Stand in the little passage a moment. Listen. Listen for her hated twanging. Coax her, court her, implore her to play just once that charming little thing for one string only. In vain. Three. Across the river, on the narrow stone path that fringes the bank, a woman is walking. She came down the steps from the quay, walking slowly, one hand on her hip. It is a beautiful evening. The sky is the colour of lilac and the river of violet leaves. There are big bright trees along the path full of trembling light, and the boats, dancing up and down, send heavy curls of foam rippling almost to her feet. Now she has stopped. Now she has turned suddenly. She is leaning up against a tree, her hands over her face. She is crying. And now she is walking up and down, wringing her hands. Again she leans against the tree, her back against it, her head raised and her hands clasped as though she leaned against someone dear. Round her shoulders she wears a little grey shawl. She covers her face with the ends of it and rocks to and fro. But one cannot cry forever, so at last she becomes serious and quiet, patting her hair into place, smoothing her apron. She walks a step or two. No, too soon, too soon. Again her arms fly up. She runs back, and again she is blotted against the tall tree. Squares of gold light show in the houses. The street lamps gleam through the new leaves. Yellow fans of light follow the dancing boats. For a moment she is a blur against the tree, white, grey and black, melting into the stones and the shadows. And then she is gone. The end. Thank you for listening. I quite like that one. Just, just vibes. Just three little kind of vignettes. There's just vibes. It's good stuff. I really, really love the way she describes things. Ugh, she's so good. All the vibes. Love me some Katherine Mansfield vibes. Your cat decided to take her toy monkey out of the toy basket and has been carrying him out. Oh, that's cute. My cabbages, yes. But yeah, I really enjoyed that one, especially the last one. Like the way she describes light, like coming through the trees and stuff. Exquisite. Wish I could write like that. Maybe I just steal Katherine Mansfield's stuff. But yeah. That concludes our reading for tonight. I hope you all enjoyed yourselves. I certainly did. I always enjoy reading Katherine Mansfield. She just, her stuff is just so nice to read. It's just, And the puzzle's just finished. Perfect timing. It was a 3-puzzle stream. Oh, you see, what would have been perfect there is if I'd been reading some Sherlock Holmes, Then it would have been three puzzle stream, 3-pipe stream, whatever. Thank 4 stories. Welcome 4 stories. But yes, I really hope you enjoyed that. I certainly did. And yeah, in theory, Sam will be back on Saturday for the, I think, 3rd part of Kidnapped. I think we're on part 3. I kind of have lost track. But pardon the extra ease, your keyboard is acting up and adding them randomly. Oh no, they're very entertaining. It's great. 3-puzzle stream. It's great. But yeah, in theory, we'll be back on Saturday with some more Kidnapped by Robert Louis Stevenson. Yeah, and then I should be back next Wednesday, I hope. Adventures, pirates, crime, exactly. Scottish accents. Katherine Mansfield is a lovely thing to listen to, I imagine. Nice thing to read as well. But yeah, let's see if, I assume Stephen is probably on. Most likely. He is. So I might ping us over to good old Stephen, who is playing Mika and the Witch's Mountain, which sounds like fun. But yes, thank you all very much for being here, lovely people. Have a good rest of your day, evening, and week as well. We shall hopefully see you again on Saturday. And yeah, thank you very much for being here. Go take care of yourselves, and we shall see you again soon. Goodbye.